report today in Toronto Star kind of detailing Phil Kessel maybe being kind of difficult to coach, and some of the realities of Randy Carlisle's job. So anyway, your reaction to that story and Phil Kessel as a guy who kind of makes his own way.
Well, I haven't read the story. Obviously, I've heard of it. It's not an issue. It's not an issue in the dressing room at all. Phil and Spotter are both grinning about it. We got to prepare for camp, and the stories I think from this day forward should be what's happening on the ice. So it's not an issue from our standpoint at all.
Dave, how do you feel the depth on this team now stacks up with what your vision was when you came?
Well, you can never be too deep. Would we like to have done more things along the way? Of course we would have. I think you say that every September. We made a conscious decision that we needed to improve the depth of this organization, particularly in the bottom 6 forwards. We went about doing that with different types of players, but players that we felt that could play up and down the lineup. They're largely seasoned veterans. Some of them are still, I would say, in the prime of their career, and they have something to prove. I think the competition at this camp and throughout the season is going to be at a much higher level than it's been in the last couple of years. I think the coaching staff, they have more in their bag, and players are going to have to perform or they're not going to get the ice time that they expect.
Does that go for veterans like David Clarkson, Dave?
It goes for everybody, yeah. 2 years ago, and again, I didn't want to keep going back to the limited success we had 2 years ago, but we had players in one-ways that were sent to the minors, and people were gasping in this room. There's no reason that a player should have his spot on the team determined by a one-way contract or the size of his salary. If we want to have success, those players that have the higher salaries, that are supposed to be our better players, have to perform. There's no secret in that. But I think that we've made it clear to our players and to our coaches that we need to compete, and all the players need to compete. And there's other guys out there that will take their jobs if that doesn't happen.
Can that depth help you later in the season where your top players maybe aren't playing as much because you have a stronger third and fourth line?
It should help. The teams that go deep in the playoffs are playing. They're playing 4 lines. They're playing 3.5 lines at least. You're looking at some fourth lines are playing 8, 10, 12 minutes. Injuries as well. Like some of the players we're talking about that are bottom 6 forwards, there's some skilled players there that have played up above that spot in recent years. Some of them as lately as last year. So if we have some injuries with top 6 forwards, we think that we're in a better position to replace those players, and the competition in the lineup from 1 probably through to 13 or 14 up front is as strong as it's ever been.
Does David Clarkson make the team if he plays like he did last year?
Well, it's up to the coaches, but I mean, if David plays like he did last year, he's going to start the season with, he's got 10 games on the bench, which I think is a big part of how he played. I think a lot of things went wrong for him. Very few went right, and it's kind of spiraled out of control. But David Clarkson didn't turn into a bad hockey player overnight. He had 2 very strong years prior to coming here. He looks like he's worked tremendously hard to come back and have a good year this year, and he'll be given every opportunity to do that.
You touched on it a few minutes ago. You, is it frustrating all that we're not even a day into camp, and one of the main storylines is kind of Kessel bought stuff and not anything to do with the ice?
No. I mean, 5 years ago, would that have frustrated me? Probably. I don't think it's. Listen, there's stories that are going to pop up during the course of the year that we may like, that we may think are inaccurate. We have to focus as a team on getting better and trying to prepare for our opening night, and then after that, the next night, and the night after that. And I think we can't let any outside disturbances get in our way of being prepared.
Do you need your leadership guys to tell the young guys that they can't be distracted by that, because you're not going to get this in places like Nashville or Anaheim, and you had a taste of this in Vancouver a little bit, where everything is in the fishbowl?
Yeah, I mean, your leadership group has to help the younger players, no matter where you are. Is it more important in places like this? you know, definitely. I'm pretty certain that there's a lot of people that are speaking today in front of crowds of 2 and 3. And it is going to be different. Toronto always is, but that's a great part of it too. I mean, our players understand, even the young ones understand what it's like to be here. The guys who've been here for a year or two, you know, Jake Gardiner and Morgan Riley, you know, they know what it's like to be in Toronto. But our veterans have to help our guys along, and that's the same every year.
Dave, with where Nazem Kadri's at in his cycle, a couple of full years, what are you expecting out of him this season?
Naz has to be prepared to compete for 82 games, and I think that's, if he is, then he's going to have a very good year. It's a very talented player. Last year he showed at times what he can do. The year before, I thought, you know, he was playing further down the lineup, so maybe against lesser competition at times, but there's no doubting Naz's skill set and the positive impact he can have on the team. If he's prepared to play for 82 games, we're going to be in pretty good shape with Nazem Kadri.
You wanted to turn the clock back a bit to 2013 and the success you had. A lot of that was a physical play in Colton and McLaren. Now, how do you bring that back, that element back this year?
Well, a lot of that was, again, it was in competing. Forget who was playing on those lines. There were times when one or both, or sometimes none, were playing, but our team competed. You know, I think very few nights would you guys write or say that the Toronto Maple Leafs didn't compete, and you know, that was because of Matt Fratton. It was because of Leo Komarov. It was because of Colton. It was because of Fraser. Those guys competed very hard, and it had a bit of an impact on the rest of our group. So regardless of which players are playing there, the expectation is that they're going to push for minutes, and they're going to push to stay in the lineup. Two of the guys I mentioned, obviously bringing them back, we know what they're like. One in particular, you know, we didn't want to lose Leo last year. It was a function of money that we just couldn't, you know, with the cap dropping and what he was earning in the KHL. It was a situation where we couldn't keep him, and we missed him more than we thought. And I think he's going to come back and have a positive impact as well.
Where do you see him playing, Dave?
Pardon me?
Where do you see Komarov playing?
Again, that's up to the coaching staff, but he could play. Leo's a good player. You know, he could play on the 4th line. He could play on the 3rd line. I wouldn't doubt seeing him getting some power play time. I mean, he's a quality guy. He's a hard player to play against, but he's played on championship teams. He's played in the Olympics. You know, it's not a player that's just a 4th line player. He has more to give than that.
Dave, how different do you see the blue line being this year, and how do the acquisitions help Morgan Riley and Jake Gardiner in their development?
Well, it should help him by playing the left side. You know, I think it was out of necessity, but it was probably a little unfair to play those guys out of position at times. I think playing with a right-handed veteran, which we have available to them, will help them. And their minutes, again, are going to be dictated by their play, but I think we're expecting both those guys to continue their growth as players. Don't want to ask too much of Morgan. It is only year 2 for him, but talking to people in Vancouver that, you know, watch him over the course of the summer, he's a very determined player not to have a setback. We think our depth on the back end is much better. You know, some of the younger players with the Marlies have taken a step, and we expect them to push for jobs too.
Dave, can you sort of go through what the working environment is like for you with Brendan now above and Kyle and Brendan, you know, a step below, and what that relationship has been like so far?
It's been good. I mean, we're still trying to find our way a little bit, particularly with Kyle and Brendan, but you know, Brandon's only been here for a short amount of time, Kyle a little bit longer. But with Brendan and myself, it's worked very well. I mean, we talk fairly regularly, almost every day. We share a lot of the same ideas about how our team should play. I think he's bringing a different approach to how we do things, you know, from playing on good teams, championship teams, from a player standpoint as well as, you know, a manager standpoint. So I think that's been, from my standpoint, it's been very good. With Kyle, he's jumped in with both feet, and he's a very bright young man, and he works tremendously hard. I think our team is going to be better as an organization with him in it, And that doesn't, I'm not pointing towards analytics when I say that. I'm pointing towards him as a person and as an employee. So I think that the group is coming together nicely. There's more things that we probably want to add over time, but we're still pretty early on.
Realistically, how many jobs are open that aren't occupied, aren't penciled in?
Well,
And where?
unfortunately, there's no jobs open, and that's going to make it more difficult because there are people that are expecting to be here that are probably on one-way contracts that aren't going to make our team. And we did that by design. This wasn't one where we wanted to leave 2 spots open and say, let's have 2 guys fight for it. We wanted to approach this a different way. There are no spots open, and someone's going to lose their job. And that's just the way it is. I mean, we need the competition in this group to be as high as it's ever been if we're going to maximize the skill level and talent level that we have.
Can you just talk about the guys you brought in late the last few days? How many are people?
Yeah, we added some people late. You know, we looked at our numbers. We looked at the number of games we're playing. We wanted to bring in guys that have had some experience that we'd be giving them an opportunity to come to camp. Who knows where that turns out? You know, how it turns out, whether they stick around here longer, whether they end up with the Marlies. But we wanted some solid veterans to come in here and raise the level of camp and to give the coaches an opportunity to maximize their ice time.
Did you touch a little bit on you and Brendan talking a lot? What is it like for you to have now a 600 goal scorer, Hall of Fame player, a guy to talk hockey with and talk about the game and get those ideas from that type of perspective?
It's different. It's been, like you said, it's been very good. He brings, when I say he brings a player's mentality. You know, there are things. I never played in the National Hockey League, and I think you can learn a lot by not making it, and you can also learn a lot from making it. And you know, I think Brendan's experiences are different than mine, and I think when you put ours together, it's an interesting dynamic. You know, he's got a lot of different views, and things he'd do things maybe differently than I would, but usually we're thinking about the same end result, and so I think it's been healthy.
Can you give us a for example on that?
No.
Do you plan to add anyone else to the front office?
Potentially. I think if you can add someone, regardless of the position that can help you, then you have to look to do it. Are we actively looking and trying to recruit somebody? No. But if the right person came along and we felt would add to us, add to our group, add to some part of the organization, then we would add them.
Dave, what do you say to people who think that your coach is on a short lease this year?
Is that different than most years? I mean, really, I don't think it makes it one bit of difference.
What happened last year wouldn't come into the equation of what's going on this year?
How a team plays is always a reflection of your coach. You know, I mean, at some point, you look at how the team plays and you say, is the coach having the impact that's needed? Don't really think that matters if the coach is on a 1-year or 2-year deal if you don't think he's getting through. We think that Randy is a very good coach. Our players think that Randy's a very good coach. We think that he's going to get the most out of this group with the addition of the 2 assistants, a bit of a different dynamic. You know, we're very comfortable that this is a quality coaching staff that's going to maximize the potential of this team.
Do you think Randy's going to have to change his coaching style at all to play the way that you and Brendan envision this team being different as a team?
No, I don't. You know, I think the coaches coach the players that they get. You know, I remember getting beat by Randy's Anaheim Ducks. They weren't that bad, and they played a pretty up-tempo style, and they were a puck possession team, and they were hard to play against. I think you know, we're trying to give him some more pieces that will help him and his staff. I don't think Randy has to necessarily change the way he coaches, but also this notion that Randy Carlyle and his staff aren't open to change or open to new ideas is ridiculous. It's just not true. I mean, there's never been one time where we've tried to bring him something or add something to that group where he said, no, we don't do it that way. So, you know, if we can find ways to help the coaching staff, then we're going to do it, and I have no doubt that they would accept that help.
One more question, guys. Do you expect Robitaille to be healthy at the start of the season?
Hope so. Yeah, he's on target. It's not one where he's had a setback or anything like that. You know, the doctors feel he's doing exactly as he should be doing. You know, we're going to keep him out of game situations right now. But that's something we knew for several weeks, and hopefully he's ready for the start of the season. If it takes longer than that, then it does. But our expectation is that he'll be ready.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, thanks for coming.